2021. By way of introduction, my name's Sean and I head up the team here at rapidMATION. Today we're going to be talking about intelligent automation, and we're going to take you through an end-to-end demonstration of the Nintex process platform. When we talk to people about intelligent automation, people often ask us, well, hey, what is this thing called intelligent automation? And very simply, we break intelligent automation down into 3 easy steps. The first step is being able to understand your processes. And this is about establishing total visibility and control over your processes. We use visual process mapping software to document how the process really runs inside people's businesses. And this becomes a living blueprint that can be used by anyone in your company, including new starters, to see how the process actually runs. The next stage of intelligent automation is about digitization. And why do we want to digitize? Well, work isn't a place you go anymore, it's a thing you do. And people want to be able to work anywhere, anytime, any place. And digitizing our processes allows us to make this a reality. The third step in the intelligent automation journey is around automation. And again, why would you want to automate? Well, automation is all about people and how we can help people do more with less. We automate where it makes the most sense and where we can have the greatest impact. And we want to free up our human users' time from tedious, mundane, and repetitive work so that they can perform higher value work. This inspires employees to bring their best selves to work every day. And really, that is intelligent automation. Now, if we frame this in the context of Nintex, the first step is truly understanding your processes inside an organization. And when we talk about understand, what we're referring to is the Nintex ProMap platform. And Nintex ProMap is a tool for process mapping and management of processes. Moving across to Digitise, the Digitise phase is all about how we can create forms and mobile apps. And these forms are there to work across our mobile, tablet, or desktop devices, which means that we can work anywhere, anytime, any place. And finally, when we get across to the automation stage of the intelligent automation journey, what we're going to do here is we're going to talk around these 6 aspects here. We're going to talk about human workflow automation. We're going to talk about document generation and e-signatures. We're going to talk about how we can actually see what's happening inside our workflow processes. And last but certainly not least, we're going to show you how we can use something called robotic process automation in this intelligent automation journey. That's it for an intro from me. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Andrew, who's going to take us through a walkthrough of what we're going to see today. Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Sean. For the demo today, we're going to use the scenario of a non-disclosure agreement being signed. So non-disclosure agreement, sometimes known as a confidentiality agreement or confidential disclosure agreement, is a legal contract that 2 parties sign to be able to share information with each other, but that needs to be restricted so that it's only shared between those 2 organisations. So in our scenario, Sheila Smith is the Chief Legal Officer for the PlayPlay company. She's regularly asked to create these non-disclosure agreement documents for clients and get them signed. For each NDA, Sheila needs to find the Word document template and rename it, save it somewhere else, then replace all the company and contact details in that template for the new client, upload that to an e-sign provider and enter all the contact information that for the person that needs to sign it, wait for that document to be signed, and then when it's returned, copy that signed document from her inbox into their Salesforce CRM system for that company's account, and then notify any internal staff that that NDA has been signed and filed. So the problem with this process is that it's undefined in this business. Sheila is the only one who actually knows how to execute this process. So if someone else needed to do it, if she was away or unavailable, then there's no real way that they know how to execute that process. It's unstructured, so the requests for NDAs come in via email or phone call or someone just walking up to Sheila's desk. And of course, there's no way to track the process to see what stage it's at. If you've requested an NDA, you'd have to go and ask Sheila where it is. It's also time consuming, so Sheila spends a lot of time on manual and repetitive steps to get the NDA signed, and she's an expensive resource whose time could be better spent. And the business can be held up because the NDAs are not signed in a timely fashion. And lastly, the process is error prone. So because Sheila needs to fill out that Word document manually, entering company and contact details, there's a chance you could get that wrong or miss some information that's necessary for that document. So what's the solution? So first of all, we need to understand the process. So we're going to use Nintex ProMap to define and document the process. That makes the process visible to all the appropriate staff, and it contains the exact steps that the user needs to follow to get the NDA signed. So if somebody else needs to execute that process, they can follow the steps. And of course, when we've done that, we can also see what the automation opportunities are. We're going to digitize that process. In today's example, we're going to use the Salesforce interface to enter the NDA information, but it could be a web form from a Nintex Workflow Cloud, for example. And then, of course, we're going to automate the process. So to automate that, we're going to use a Nintex Workflow, and that's going to manage the process, so give it some structure and visibility. We're going to use Nintex Document Generation to automatically generate the NDA from a template. We're going to use Nintex Sign to automatically send the document off for electronic signature. And finally, we're going to use Nintex Robotic Process Automation to retrieve that signed document from the inbox and send it off to Salesforce. Let's start this demonstration off by having a look at Nintex ProMap. So we've documented or defined our non-disclosure agreement process inside of ProMap. We've grouped it under a legal group here, so there could be other processes under the legal group as well. And as you can see, there's four main activities or steps that we're going to undertake, and you can see that it's in a swim lane diagram. So the first step is for the legal people to create the NDA. We're then going to hand that process off to Nintex Sign and Nintex Workflow Cloud to generate the NDA and send it out. The client isn't going to send it, and then we're going to use a Nintex RPA to grab the email attachment sent back and get the file and put that into Salesforce for us. So some things to note: if I click on the step, it's going to open up and show me all the tasks that are involved, and you can see here that we're able to link to the different systems that are going to be used. For example, Salesforce. If I click on the web link there, it's actually going to open up Salesforce for me. And then in the instructions, we can put things like notes. So if you're looking for an account that doesn't exist, then I can link directly to the process for creating a new account. Similarly, for the other steps, I can click on and see which particular activities I need to undertake to finish this process off. We've got down the bottom here who the process expert is and the process owner. I've got a change log that I can review to see if any changes have been made to the process. People who participate in the process or are involved with the process in some way can submit feedback, and I can see which systems the process uses. So we can see that Salesforce, Nintex Workflow Cloud, Nintex Sign, Nintex RPA are all systems that are used within this particular process. Okay, so we've got the process defined, and we can see what our automation opportunities were when we defined that process, and we've actually automated those processes already. And let's jump over to Nintex now and have a look at what that looks like inside of the Nintex Workflow Cloud. So here is my process, the non-disclosure agreement process. And the first thing to look at is the start event. So what we're going to do in this instance is we're going to start the workflow when a new record is created in Salesforce. So we've connected Nintex to our Salesforce instance for the PlayPlay company, and what we've done inside of Salesforce is we've created a new object linked to the accounts called a non-disclosure agreement. So when a new record is created, the record is a non-disclosure agreement, we're going to kick this workflow off and we're going to pass in some values from Salesforce. Then we're going to go through and actually get back some of that information that we want relating to the different objects inside of Salesforce. So we need some information about the account, and we need some information about the contact, we need some information about the NDA that was created, the NDA record, and we also need some information about the user. Then we're going to go and set a bunch of variables in this process, and then we get to the interesting part down here where we're going to go and grab the Word document template, and that is sitting inside of a SharePoint site. So we can point to the particular SharePoint site and the library and the item ID there, and then that will retrieve that document for use in the next step in the workflow. But let's just quickly have a look at that template. If I switch over here, you can see that the template is a non-disclosure agreement, and it has a bunch of placeholders here that are going to be replaced when the document template is used to generate the NDA for a particular customer or client. So we can see we've got the account name in here, and down the bottom we've got some more company information about the address and who's going to sign it and their title. Now, the way this works inside of Nintex is when I generate the document, I get a bunch of tags that I can use. And these tags I can just copy directly out of here and paste into the Word document. So when Nintex runs this step, it will find those placeholders in the document and replace them with the variable values that I've populated earlier in the workflow. Then we get the document, and we are going to store that document in a Office for Business directory. And then once that's been done, we can pick that up and pass it along to Adobe Sign or Nintex Sign. And what that's going to do is send that out to the recipient. In this case, it's going to be me, but typically it would be the person that we got back from Salesforce, and we're going to ask them to electronically sign that document. So the workflow is going to pause here until it's either been signed, completed, or expired or aborted. In the instance that it's signed, we're going to go back into Salesforce, update the sign date. We're going to get that document from Adobe Sign, and then we're going to send that back to Sheila. And then we will look at how we can obtain that document from her inbox and push that back into Salesforce. So let's have a look at this in practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Salesforce as Sheila. So Sheila needs to create an NDA for Grand Hotels. So she's found the account in Salesforce, and we scroll down to the bottom and we can see that we can generate a new non-disclosure agreement simply by pressing the new button. And all we have to do is give it a name. So I'm just going to call it Nintex Process Fest 2021. And I will need to nominate a contact. So this contact drop down is, or lookup is linked to the account. So I'm just going to select John Bond here. I don't need to give it a date sign because we're going to update that automatically later on as part of the workflow. When I click on Save there, it's going to generate that new non-disclosure agreement record, and it's going to kick off our Nintex Workflow. So let's jump back onto the Nintex Workflow platform and see what happens there. So over on our Nintex Workflow dashboard, we can see all of the instances that are running. So I'm just going to click on the refresh button, and we'll do that a few times until the workflow instance appears. So here's our workflow instance, and if we click on the instance name, we'll be able to see what steps have been taken. So we can see that we're currently running. We've got some steps completed, some are still in progress. If we refresh this, we'll see that the workflow is progressing. So we're currently getting the template that we're going to use. Now we're going to generate the document. And now we've moved on to the get signature step. So I'm going to play the part of the client, in this case John Bond. The email is going to get sent to me, so that'll pop into my inbox momentarily, and here it is. So we can see here that Sheila has sent out the document via Adobe Sign or Nintex Sign, and it's asking me to go and sign that as the customer or the client. So I'm going to click on review and sign. It's going to open the document up for me. Here's my little message that I gave the workflow. It's passed it on to Adobe Sign. You can see that We've populated the document with the company name, and further on down we've populated with the address, the name of the contact with their title, and some dates. So all I need to do now is sign it. I've got a couple of options. I can draw my signature, or I can just type it in. So we'll just type it in, and all I have to do is hit apply and then click to sign at the bottom. That will then tell Adobe Sign that the document is complete, and that will in turn push that back to our workflow, which will then carry on. So let's jump back to our workflow instance and refresh that, and we should see fairly soon that the document has been signed and we've moved on to the next steps of the workflow. Okay, so we've completed the workflow, and we can see that the send the owner step has completed. So we're going to jump over back to Sheila's inbox and have a look and see what's going on there. So as we can see in Sheila's inbox, we've got a rule that moves those signed NDAs into this legal folder, and we can see that we've actually got two in there, one from an earlier process that we ran for a different company, United Oil and Gas, but here's our one for Grand Hotels and Resorts. So the process is completed, the workflow is completed, but the next step is to get that signed document out of this email and put that back into Salesforce. And to do that, we're going to use a robot. So I'm going to jump over to a different machine that's running the robot, and the Nintex RPA is loaded up here, the robot that we're going to run, and on the right is a browser that the robot's going to use to interact with Salesforce. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Salesforce site, we're going to log in, then we're going to loop through any emails that are in that legal folder, grab the attachment out of them, work out which account we need to put them into, then go to that account and load the document. Okay, so I'm just going to kick that process off, but this could run independently in the background without anyone being aware of it. But for the sake of this demo, we'll do it this way so you can see how it works. So I'm going to click the play button. The robot's now going to open up the Salesforce site in Internet Explorer. We're going to log in using Sheila's credentials. Because we're using IE, Salesforce is going to look a little different than we saw before. Okay, now that we've logged in, we're going to go and retrieve any email messages that are in that. We've got one there, so we'll grab the first one, we'll look for the name of the account, mark the email as read, and then we're going to find the account. So we're going to search for the account. In this instance, it's our Grand Hotels. We're then going to load that account, click on the link to open it up, and we're going to go down to the section where we can add in files. Click on the browse button, locate the file that we downloaded earlier to our desktop, and then attach that file and click done. And then finally we're just going to delete that file off our local machine to clean it up. And then we're going to loop through to the next email, and this time it'll do the exact same thing for any other emails that are in there. This time it's going to be a different customer. So we'll see in a moment that it's going to search for the United Oil and Gas, which was the other email in that inbox that hadn't been processed. There we go, and it'll continue to loop through any other emails that are in there that haven't been marked as read. So I'm just going to pause that there, and what we'll do now is we're going to jump back and have a quick look at Sheila's view of Salesforce. And if we refresh the page for Grand Hotels here, we should now see that we have the note in here, or the attachment, which is the signed NDA. If I click on that, We can see that it's been loaded in. There it is with the signature on it. And we can also see that the signed date has been updated against our non-disclosure agreement. And that concludes the demo. So let's just do a quick recap of what we've seen there. To start with, we've defined the process using ProMap, so we know all of the steps that we need to take, and we've documented those, and we've put that into ProMap to make it available for everyone in the business that needs to know about that process. Then we have automated the process. So to start the process, we kicked it off inside of Salesforce by creating a new NDA record, which then triggered a Nintex workflow. That workflow then used document generation capabilities to automate the generation of that NDA document using the information that came from Salesforce. And we used that Word document and passed it off to Nintex Sign to get the client to sign it. When the client signed it, we've got a PDF back which went into Sheila's inbox, and then we've used a robot to pick that up from the inbox, get the attachment and put it back into Salesforce as a file against that account. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Sean to wrap it up for us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for a great demo, Andrew, and a walkthrough of the Nintex Process Platform. So in summary, we started the conversation talking about intelligent automation. And to summarize, intelligent automation is all about being able to understand, then digitize, and finally automate different processes inside your organization. And what we took you through today was a walkthrough of the end-to-end Nintex process platform that took you from being able to understand your processes using tools like Nintex ProMap through to digitizing your processes with things like Nintex Workflow Cloud, and finally onto automating different parts of those processes using things like Nintex Sign or doc generation or even robotic process automation. We hope you found the session useful. If you'd like to get some more information or get a demo on any of these specific tools or technologies that we've taken you through today, feel free to drop us an email at hello@rapidMATION.com. With that, we'd like to thank you very much for your time and taking the time out to watch this session, and we hope you have a great Nintex Process Fest 2021.